are about to end, and it is happy for you, but not for everybody. As after hearing these 3 stories, you will know what I am saying. Last one is main story. Do not skip it. Subscribe and let's start. The last days of summer were slipping away. My partner and I decided to spend them in a small cabin deep in the woods. The air was fresh, and the trees whispered secrets to each other. We thought we would find peace and quiet there, away from the city's noise and chaos. Little did we know, something dark was lurking in the shadows. At first, everything seemed perfect. We woke up to the sound of birds singing, and spent our days hiking, swimming in the lake, and enjoying each other's company. But as the days went on, a sense of unease began to creep in. It was a subtle feeling, like someone was watching us. I brushed it off, thinking I was just being paranoid, but the feeling wouldn't go away. It grew stronger every day. One evening, while we were sitting on the porch, I saw it for the first time. A shadowy figure standing at the edge of the tree line. It was tall, and its outline was fuzzy, almost like it was made of smoke. I nudged my partner and pointed it out. "Do you see that?" I whispered. My partner squinted into the darkness and shook their head. "I don't see anything. Maybe you're just tired." I wanted to believe them, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that figure, standing there, watching us. When I finally drifted off, my dreams were filled with dark, twisted images. The next day, we decided to go for a long hike to clear our minds. The forest was beautiful, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being followed. Every now and then, I would catch a glimpse of that shadowy figure out of the corner of my eye. It was always just far enough away to be out of focus, but close enough to feel its presence. "Let's head back," I said, trying to keep the fear out of my voice. "Already? We just got here," my partner replied, looking concerned. I don't feel right. Please, let's go back." They reluctantly agreed, and we started making our way back to the cabin. The entire time, I felt like we were being hunted. The forest, which had once felt so welcoming, now felt like a trap. The trees seemed to close in on us, their branches reaching out like twisted fingers. When we finally made it back to the cabin, we locked all the doors and windows. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination, but my partner could see how shaken I was. "We'll be okay," they said, pulling me into a hug. "We're safe here." But I didn't feel safe, not anymore. That night, I heard whispers outside our window. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but they sent chills down my spine. I woke my partner up, but by the time they were awake, the whispers had stopped. "I think we should leave," I said, my voice trembling. "We can't leave now. It's too dark. We'll go in the morning," they replied, trying to sound calm. But I could see the fear in their eyes too. The next morning, we packed our bags and got ready to leave. As we stepped outside, we saw something that made my blood run cold. There were strange symbols carved into the trees around the cabin. They were dark and menacing, and I had no idea what they meant, but I knew they were a warning. "We need to get out of here now," I said, my voice shaking. We hurried to the car and started driving down the narrow dirt road. The forest seemed to close in on us, and I kept looking in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see that shadowy figure following us. Just when I thought we were safe, the car started to sputter and then died. "No, no, no! This can't be happening!" I cried, trying to start the car again. "It's okay, we'll just have to walk," my partner said, trying to stay calm. We grabbed our bags and started walking down the road. The forest was eerily quiet, and every sound made me jump. I felt like we were being watched, and I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see that dark figure. As we walked, the symbols became more frequent, and the feeling of dread grew stronger. It was as if the forest itself was trying to keep us from leaving. We walked for what felt like hours, but the road seemed to stretch on forever. Finally, we saw a clearing up ahead. My heart leapt with hope, thinking we were almost out of the woods. But as we got closer, we saw something that made us stop in our tracks. It was the cabin. Our cabin. "This isn't possible," I whispered. "We've been walking in circles." "We need to stay calm," my partner said, but I could hear the fear in their voice. We decided to go back to the cabin and try to figure out what to do next. As we stepped inside, the air felt heavy, almost suffocating. The symbols on the trees seemed to glow in the fading light, and the whispers started again, louder this time. "We have to leave," I said, my voice shaking. "We can't stay here." But before we could make a plan, the door slammed shut behind us, and the shadowy figure appeared in the room. It was closer now, and I could see its eyes, dark, empty voids that seemed to suck the light out of the room. "Get out!" I screamed, grabbing my partner's hand and pulling them towards the door. But the figure moved faster than we could. It blocked our path, and the room grew colder. I felt the suffocating pressure around my chest, and I could see the fear in my partner's eyes. "We need to fight it," my partner said, their voice trembling. "We can't let it take us." But as we tried to move, the figure seemed to grow, its dark presence filling the room. I felt like I was drowning in darkness, and the whispers grew louder, more insistent. "Run!" I screamed, pushing my partner towards the back door. We stumbled out into the night, the cold air biting at our skin. The forest was dark and foreboding, but we had no choice. We ran, our breaths coming in ragged gasps. The symbols on the trees seemed to twist and writhe, and the whispers followed us. Just when I thought we couldn't run any further, we saw a light up ahead. It was a small cabin, different from ours. We ran towards it, desperate for help. As we got closer, we saw an old man standing on the porch. "Please help us," I cried, my voice hoarse. The old man looked at us with sad eyes. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "This place is cursed. We need to get out of here," my partner said, their voice filled with desperation. The old man nodded and opened the door, letting us inside. The cabin was warm and filled with the smell of fresh bread. It felt safe, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were still in danger. "What is happening to us?" I asked, my voice trembling. "There is an evil entity in these woods," the old man said. "It feeds on fear and despair. It lures people in and traps them. Once you enter its domain, it's almost impossible to leave." "Almost?" my partner asked, clinging to a glimmer of hope. The old man nodded. "There is a way, but it's dangerous. You have to face the entity and banish it. But be warned, it will do everything in its power to stop you." We had no other choice. We couldn't stay in the cabin forever, and the thought of that dark figure haunting us for the rest of our lives was unbearable. The old man gave us a small, worn book with strange symbols and instructions. "This will help you," he said, "but you must be brave." We thanked him and left the cabin, the book clutched tightly in my hands. As we walked back into the forest, the air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to reach out towards us. The whispers were louder now, almost deafening. We followed the instructions in the book, drawing symbols on the ground and chanting strange words. The darkness seemed to pulse around us, and I could feel the entity's anger. It was close, so close. Suddenly, the ground beneath us trembled, and the shadowy figure appeared. It was more menacing than ever, its dark eyes burning with fury. It lunged at us, and I felt a cold, piercing pain in my chest. "No!" I screamed, using all my strength to push the entity back. My partner joined in, chanting the words from the book. The entity howled in rage, and the shadows around us seemed to come alive, twisting and writhing. I felt like I was being torn apart, but I couldn't give up. Finally, with a blinding flash of light, the entity let out a final, anguished scream and disappeared. The forest grew silent, and the air felt lighter. We had done it. We had banished the entity. We collapsed on the ground, exhausted and trembling. The old man's cabin was gone, and the symbols on the trees had faded. It was as if the forest was returning to normal, but we knew we couldn't stay. We had to leave before the entity found a way back. We made our way back to the car, our steps slow and heavy. This time, the car started without any trouble, and we drove away from the woods, never ever looking back. I was walking home from the park when I saw something strange on the edge of town, a carnival. It wasn't there before. I was sure of it. Big, bright lights and the sound of laughter filled the air. I couldn't resist, so I decided to check it out. As I walked closer, the entrance seemed to glow. The sign read, "The Devil's Carnival." It felt a bit scary, but my curiosity got the better of me. I bought a ticket from a man with a creepy smile. He handed it over and whispered, "Enjoy the show." Inside, everything looked magical. There were rides, games, and all sorts of delicious-smelling food. I was drawn to a big, colorful tent with a sign that said, "Free show inside." I thought, why not, and walked in. The tent was dark except for a spotlight on a stage. Suddenly, a clown appeared. He had a painted smile, but his eyes looked cold. "Welcome, welcome," he said. "We've been waiting for you." His voice sent chills down my spine. The show began, and it was unlike anything I'd ever seen. At first, it was funny, clowns juggling, doing tricks, making everyone laugh. But then, things took a dark turn. The clowns started acting weird. One of them brought out a knife and pretended to stab another. The audience laughed, but it felt wrong. The clown who got stabbed didn't get up. I tried to leave, but the tent was packed with people. When the show ended, everyone clapped and cheered, but I just wanted out. I pushed through the crowd and finally made it outside. The carnival was even scarier now. The rides looked old and rusty, and the people, their faces were pale and expressionless. I headed for the exit, but no matter where I went, I couldn't find it. It was like the carnival had changed, trapping me inside. I started to panic. I ran to the nearest clown and asked, "How do I get out of here?" The clown's smile widened. "There is no way out," he said. "You're part of the show now." I didn't believe him. I kept running, hoping to find an exit. I ended up in front of a mirror maze. I thought maybe, just maybe, there was a way out through there. I stepped inside and immediately felt lost. The mirrors reflected endless versions of myself. I could hear whispers, feel eyes watching me. "Help!" I shouted, but my voice just echoed back. Suddenly, a clown appeared in the mirror. "Lost?" he asked, laughing. "You can never leave." His reflection stepped out of the mirror and grabbed my arm. I pulled away and ran, but every turn led to another mirror, another clown. I was exhausted, terrified, and feeling hopeless. I stumbled out of the maze into a dark corner of the carnival. There was an old, rundown tent there. I didn't want to go inside, but I had no choice. Maybe it had an exit. Inside, it was quiet, too quiet. Then I saw them, the people from the audience. They were sitting in a circle, looking empty and lost. "What happened to you?" I asked. One of them looked up, his eyes hollow. "We are the show," he whispered. I realized then that they were trapped, just like me. They had become part of the carnival, their souls taken. I felt a heavy weight of fear and sadness. Was this my fate too? But I couldn't give up. I had to find a way out. I remembered the ticket the man gave me. Maybe it held a clue. I pulled it out and noticed a tiny, almost invisible message. "Face your fears to find the exit." My fears, I had to face them. I thought about the things that scared me the most. The dark, clowns being trapped. I had to confront them. I walked back to the main area, where the rides were. The Ferris wheel loomed over me, its seats creaking in the wind. I hated heights, but I needed to try. I got on the Ferris wheel, my hands shaking. As it went up, I closed my eyes, feeling the fear wash over me. When I opened them, I saw the carnival from above. It looked different, almost like a maze. I could see paths leading out, but they kept shifting. The wheel stopped at the top, and I saw a small gate far away, hidden behind some tents. That had to be the exit. I got off the ride and ran towards it. As I got closer, the clowns appeared again, blocking my way. "Not so fast," one of them said. "You can't leave." But I wasn't going to stop. I pushed through, fighting the urge to scream. They tried to grab me, but I dodged and kept running. Finally, I reached the gate. I pushed it open and stumbled out into the cool night air. I turned back, expecting to see the carnival, but it was gone. The field was empty. The lights, the sounds, everything disappeared. I was free. I dropped to my knees, tears streaming down my face. I had faced my fears and escaped the devil's carnival. Now every summer, I see the field, and I remember. The carnival comes back, but I stay away. Sometimes I see others walking towards it, curiosity in their eyes. I want to warn them, but I know they wouldn't believe me. They have to face it themselves, just like I did. It was the last week of summer, and my friends and I wanted to make the most of it. We decided to rent a beach house, a place where we could relax and have fun before school started again. The house we chose was old but charming, standing alone at the edge of a quiet beach. When we arrived, we couldn't believe how perfect everything seemed. The waves, the sand, the sun, it was all like a dream. The first day was full of laughter. We played in the waves, built sand castles, and watched the sunset together. As night fell, we gathered in the living room. Tom, always curious, started exploring the house. He found an old diary in a drawer, dusty and worn out. "Hey guys, look at this," he said, opening it up. The first page was dated back to the 1950s. We started reading. The diary belonged to a woman named Evelyn, who once lived there with her husband and 2 kids. Her entries were filled with happiness at first, talking about beach picnics and family moments. But soon, the tone changed. She wrote about hearing strange noises at night, whispers that seemed to come from nowhere, and shadows that moved in the corners of her eyes. Her family began to experience strange things, objects moving on their own, cold spots in the house, and eerie silences that would suddenly fall over them. One entry in particular stood out. It described a night when Evelyn's son, Peter, went missing. She wrote about searching the house, the beach, everywhere, but he was gone. The diary ended abruptly after that, with no explanation of what happened to the rest of the family. A chill ran down my spine as we finished reading. We all laughed it off, pretending not to be scared, but the air felt heavy. That night, we went to bed with uneasy thoughts. I was just starting to drift off when I heard a faint sound, whispering. I sat up and listened. The room was dark, and the sound seemed to be coming from the corner. I turned on my flashlight and saw nothing, just an empty room. The next day, we tried to shake off the weird feelings. We spent the day outside, but a sense of dread lingered. That night, things got worse. We heard footsteps in the hallway, doors creaking open and shut, and soft knocking sounds on the walls. Tom decided to set up his camera to try and catch whatever was happening. We were all a bit nervous, but agreed it was a good idea. Around midnight, the camera captured something chilling. The door to the living room opened slowly, but no one was there. Then a shadow crossed the room, moving toward the diary. The pages started flipping on their own, stopping on the last written page. Suddenly, a scream echoed through the house, waking everyone up. We rushed to the living room, but nothing was there. The diary lay open on the floor, untouched. Our fear grew. Each night, the hauntings escalated. One evening, as we sat together, the lights began to flicker. We heard a soft cry, almost like a child's coming from upstairs. "Did you hear that?" whispered Sarah, her eyes wide with fear. We all nodded, frozen in place. Tom grabbed a flashlight, and we all followed him upstairs, hearts pounding. In the hallway, we saw a small, translucent figure of a boy standing near the window. He looked sad, lost. We stared in shock as he turned toward us, his eyes pleading. "Help me," he whispered before fading away. It was Peter. We knew it had to be. The next few days were a blur of terror. We were trapped in the house, each night bringing more horrors. We found more entries appearing in the diary, written in our handwriting. Why is this happening? We need to leave. But whenever we tried to run, the doors wouldn't open. The windows were sealed shut. We were prisoners. One night, as we sat together, exhausted and scared, we heard a loud bang from the kitchen. We rushed in to find the words, "Leave now," scratched into the wall. But we couldn't leave. The house wouldn't let us. We were desperate. In our final attempt, we decided to confront the spirits. We gathered in the living room, holding hands, and called out to them. "We know your pain. We want to help you find peace." The air grew colder, and we saw the shadows of Evelyn and her family appear before us. They looked sad but hopeful. Evelyn spoke softly, "You must finish what we couldn't." With trembling hands, I picked up the diary and started writing. As I wrote, the house began to shake. The spirits' faces softened, and they slowly faded away. The air grew warmer, and the sense of dread lifted. We knew we had done something right. The next morning, the doors were open. We packed our things and left as quickly as we could. As we drove away, I looked back at the house. It stood silent, no longer threatening. But the memories stayed with us. Like and subscribe for more horror stories. Thanks for watching.